Hi, Vicky here. So, welcome to my living room. In my living room, everyone is welcome. You need to take your shoes off at the door, but everyone is welcome. And I've had a really interesting couple of weeks now, like all of you, in digesting the information that's out there, the protests that are going on, um, George Floyd's passing, and I don't know, just all of it. And I purposely took time to make sure I got my stuff together. And I'm still not sure it's all together before I said anything to you guys. And I was well aware that saying nothing, that's just not possible with this mouth. But I think it's important that we think about what we say and we approach it from a conscious place. And I think it's also really important that we don't jump on something to promote ourselves, because if we're not walking the walk beforehand, and we just jump on and pretend to, that will be seen through clear and clear. So I have been thinking about, what do I say? Do I say something? Not saying something wasn't an option. If you have a platform, if you have a mouth, you need to be saying something. And then I, did what I do. I sat and I got quiet and I asked, what has been my learning curve? Because this is what this is really about. It's about learning. And I will get into the energy components because I think that's important too. But I wanted to share a story. About 17 years ago, as near as I can count back, I was doing sessions at the house. And so, people would come in and I'd work into the evenings, and they, would meet my husband, my kid, and everything. And I had this appointment scheduled in the evening after work for her. I remember she came to the back door, which kind of surprised me because most people would just park in front, come to the front door. And I felt bad because I didn't leave the light on back there. But so somehow she made it up through there and didn't, trip over the steps and everything. And when I opened up the door, I remember feeling, wow, she's got great energy. This is going to be fun. So I invite her in. We go into my office, sit down, and the first question she asks me is it okay if I'm here? And I honestly thought I went dumb for a minute, because I thought, oh shoot, did I double book? Is she not supposed to be here? Were we going to do this by phone? And so I'm, of course, going through all my stuff. And I said, I'm not really sure what you're talking about. And she said, well, I just want to make sure that now that you've seen me, it's okay that I'm here. And she must have thought I was the biggest dolt in the world, because I remember going, I still don't know what you're saying to me. And she said, well, I'm black. And I said, yeah, I can see that. Didn't need intuition for that. And I said, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be clueless here, but I honestly don't know. Why wouldn't you be here if you made an appointment? And what does black have to do with it? And that has stuck with me for so many years. And I'll be honest, I didn't really know why. I think I know why now. So this person went on. I still consider her to be in my life and dear to me. And so Leo, if you're listening, code name, thank you so much, because what I'm realizing now that I didn't know then, and this is part of the learning curve, right? That I think we have to be willing to listen. We have to be willing to be open. We have to be willing to be wrong. We have to be willing to not know, because if we don't know something, we can then learn it and shift it. What I didn't take into consideration then was how many times she had not felt welcome in somebody's home or in business or in the store or anything like that. because I didn't have a frame of reference, and I'm not going to apologize for that. That's my world. But I can learn from that. And when I'm thinking about it, and I've thought about this over the years, but especially right now, where I've been asking, well, how do I grow? How do I help? How do I extend? Um, I know now that I would boldly say, and I know I did say to her that, of course, you're welcome here in my home. That has no bearing for me. You are a soul and you are a being, and therefore you are welcome. And this leads me to what we're hearing about. I was one of those people a few years ago that, not out loud, not necessarily to anybody else, but I did think all lives matter. Because if you followed any of my stuff in the past, souls matter to me. Like, I see people at the soul level. And then it was explained to me, thankfully, from a person of color, what that meant. And I'm so appreciative of all my teachers, because we can't learn, we can't know, we can learn, but we can't know every background if we've not lived it, any more than, if someone didn't have the type of childhood I had. They may not know where I'm coming from. So when I think about this, because I need to come from the I space for right now, is I'm still going to see people at the soul level. But one of the things that I commit to striving to learn and to put into place and to do, because you can learn and not do, and that just makes you a hypocrite. So you need to do, is that I'm still going to look at the soul. I'm still going to believe. I'm still going to be in an operation of, I've never met a stranger. I have been, over the last few years, asking to see their human element. And I feel like this comes into it, because when I'm looking at the soul level, I may not even see that, you were a complete nudge to your first partner or something. And so the last few years, I've been looking at this, and I feel like this is another level of exploration for me that I don't want anybody hurt for me to learn, but I truly believe in opportunity. And much like through the COVID thing, I've been using that word and saying, we have to grasp the opportunity that is here as well. So even though I know Vicky's wiring is still going to look at the soul, my commitment is to look at the human, understand the background, and to ask more questions, because a lot of the times as an intuitive, you're supposed to know everything. I don't freaking know everything. I don't pretend to know everything, but that's the perception. And I've decided, you know what? I want to ask questions. I want to know the background and the understanding, because I think we can empathize in pretty much anything, because I may not have been through some of the pain that somebody's been through, but I know pain. So part of this experience that's come back to me about, Leo being in my house and asking such a heartfelt thing, I just feel like there's so much more that I can offer when I consider where someone has walked before. And I'm going to ask that we all do that, and to put aside our egos if we don't know something. And right up there with white privilege, I never really understood it. And that's my own lack of pursuit, right? I didn't look into what it is. And I'm learning a lot lately. And I really believe that this time, everything is coming to a head because of all the trauma that has been felt over the centuries. I'm not talking about 2 weeks. This is not 2 weeks of explosion that we're seeing. These are centuries of explosion, of pain, of hurt, of suppression, of oppression, of feeling less than, of just all the other stuff that you already have heard. But I feel like the more we're asked of ourselves, the greater we grow and the greater our soul expands, and the more we can then be of service. You've heard that from me over and over again, that being of service is part of the reason we are all here. And then one of the things that I was wondering, and if anybody's got some feedback on this, I'll take it. I'm not highly educated. I'm smart, but I'm not highly educated. I haven't taken a lot of sociology classes. But one thing that's always occurred to me is, like, if a white person does something, we charge them and look at them as an individual. But if a person of color does something, we group. And I just feel like if we can all use the perception, the practice of seeing each person as an individual and responsible for their own actions, that this would help dissipate some of the racism, some of the challenges that are out there. I'm not going to tell you how to live your life. These are just some things I've been thinking this week that I feel like I need to get out and that I hope will help. And maybe other people are, feeling something similar, and, my words can help. So by contemplating that concept, I was actually doing it yesterday when I was driving around, that if we saw everybody as an individual, it would be a gift of energy exchange. It would be a gift to ourselves. And I feel like by honoring who they are, we might want to get to know them rather than assuming that we know them because of the skin suit that they're walking around in. So, and I will be honest, I've had a hard time with that because some of it's come to my attention recently in the studying and the books I'm reading now and the podcasts I'm listening to and stuff, that when I compliment someone on themselves or on their dress or their hair or something, I genuinely mean it. And I never took into consideration the people before that might have judged the person on it. I'm still going to do it because I don't pre-think those things. And I feel like that's part of appreciation, and maybe that's part of my light that can help. But again, becoming more aware of how someone might be sensitive to something because they've not run into Vicky before, who just wants to hug everybody. To a certain point, there's some people I'm not feeling all huggy about. So I feel like the compassion that's needed right now and understanding of the trauma that's being expressed, and I'm not going to get anywhere political about this. I feel like we have to be humans before parties. And I feel like we have to really open our eyes. And some of this is to open our eyes, to be able to increase our own awareness, our own frequency, our own vibration. Your soul came here to learn. And so did the human element of you. So are you learning? What have you learned this week? What have you come to understand about the words that you may use that could seem insensitive? I'm not saying we have to go about and edit everything. I just think we have to be conscious. And I feel like if you're willing to have the conversations, I've always felt like courageous conversations clear up so much. And a lot of the times it's simply asking, what don't I know about this? And how can you help me understand it? So are you challenging what you've been taught? I am very grateful that we were raised by a mother who, it's where I learned it, genuinely saw people for their character, for who they were. Were they funny? Were they smart? Were they musical? Were they caring? She really saw people like that. And I feel like she translated that to us. And it was only after she passed that I realized our father held some old, racist beliefs. And I never saw that in my childhood because I know my mother squished that. So I do get a little bit of my backbone from her. So are you challenging things that you were raised with? Because even though dad had Alzheimer's, I did not let him get away with that stuff. I felt like I had to carry on my mom's legacy, but also that that's not okay. So do you have to challenge what you were taught? Because we were taught it, if it's in there. Souls come in so knowing that we're all connected in some way and that we all have value. So if you were taught it, you're responsible for your neural pathways. You are responsible for shifting, for looking in your heart, for doing the work and changing that. So, it wouldn't be a Vicky video or podcast if I didn't ask you, how can you raise up your vibration a smidge? So are you willing to be uncomfortable? Are you willing to look at how you may have seen a situation, how you may have judged a group, how you may have felt like, well, if they just worked hard, it'd be fine. And oh, that's such a phrase. Whenever people say they, I ask them to define who they is. Even if you mean spirit. Like people will say, well, they say. And I'm like, I'm going to need proof. I'm going to need a paper written. I'm going to need a peer review. I'm going to need you to at least know who they are. What are they comprised of? Can you make your own dang decisions? Because this is going to challenge families. It's already happening. This, seeing our brothers and sisters as that, it's already challenging families. So, but I promise you, you have many lifetimes, and you don't want to be sitting in life review, looking back on it, knowing that you were complacent or that you chose your own, I can't think of the phrasing. Like you chose to wimp out. You chose to wimp out. You chose not to stand up when someone needed you to stand up. And as dysfunctional as our system is, if you're living in a white suit, you need to stand up. You need to step forward. It's where we grow. When we're uncomfortable, we grow. Think of it as your emotional suit got too small, right? Like you're wearing a jacket that a 5-year-old had on, and you need just a new, beautiful you size jacket. And it's going to be uncomfortable while you try to get that little thing off. But it's going to feel so nice to put that jacket that fits. And you may have to trade that in, down the road. The more you learn, the more you grow, the more you expand. And that's fantastic. So the energy that's happening right now, like I said, is of the trauma that's trying to process through. And that's coming through generational pains. And I still want to encourage you to be aware of your own sentientness. Be aware of that and allow yourself the downtime. Get off of the media. You don't have to show up at every protest. You're still a good person if you donate. You're a great person if you commit to self. That if you see an injustice, whether it's race or a woman being pushed around, a kid being treated improperly, that you step forward. On that note, something just popped back in. This is my theory. Take it or leave it. Unsubscribe. Don't talk to me ever again. I'm fine. If you utter the words, I am not a racist, could you please take a little bit of time, do a little bit of inventory, and find out why you're upset about that? Why are you saying that statement? If you're saying that statement, you have some embarrassment about a judgment that you placed, or an inappropriate statement, or a joke that you didn't speak up about. Because to me, and I might be simplifying this, you're either a racist up and coming, or you're against racism. So the way the energy works, and I'm very tuned into words, a lot of the times what we say we aren't, on some level we are. You're still a good person. You are an amazing soul. Look at that though. If you're trying to defend by using that statement, I promise you there's something within that needs to be looked at and loved. And then you can move forward, right? And you can be completely against racism. You don't have to defend a position. So I'm hearing that a lot lately. And when I was feeling into it, I thought, well, that just seems silly because energy doesn't understand no. So to me, there's truth there. So just look at it. If you are, do some soul searching, get some help, learn to love. So this energy that's happening may be bringing up some emotion and some judgment that you've faced in the past. That's okay. We're not saying that you're going to be, grandstanding or, wanting to take over a platform, unless of course you're doing it and then knock it off. But it has to bring it up because we are empathic beings and we do, by virtue of being human, use comparisons in order to understand things. Black, white, left, right, up, down. Our brain does that. So have some compassion for yourself. When this stuff is coming up, it's okay. It would be fantastic for you to do your own work, to learn to really love who you are and the skin you're in and the world you're in, and then you can help others. So that's part of why I've really been diving deep into some of this stuff to understand where is my contribution, how can I use this mouth and my platform to help people appreciate who they are, learn, be grateful if you have people of color in your life. If you have any people in your life, be grateful. If you have people of color in your life, be a sponge right now. Absorb it all. And still be funny. Still share. Still have humor. Because that's not mutually exclusive in this experience. We can have good times. We can connect. We can be playful, and that goes to also the COVID thing. It's not mutually exclusive. We are meant to have all of these. So you don't have to love everyone. That is not what I'm saying here, because sometimes people with their character and with their behavior and with the choices that they make, well, they don't need to be in your circle. I'm not saying that we have to embrace everybody, love everybody. What I am saying is I would like to throw down the challenge of seeing people for their character, for who they are, getting to know them that way, and understanding and, just being grateful that we have such diversity, because that is beautiful. It is beautiful. Can you imagine how boring it would be if we were all the same? So I'm going to wrap this up and just say, just be a decent person, people. You can be. You are. Let that shine through. The light shines through the cracks and the darkness. So we are able to bring this if we have these conversations with ourselves. And I am so grateful to those in my life who help me understand where my growing has room, where my expansion is challenged and and I'm being asked to learn a little bit more. So all kinds of resources out there. I am not going to tag this. When you're doing your posts and everything and you tag with the hashtag Black Lives Matter, you actually, if you're not Black or a person of color, you're suppressing the messages and the posts from those who deserve to be heard right now and for the end of time. So I'm just going to ask you to be a little bit more mindful about that too. I know there's so much, isn't there? So let's be kind to ourselves. Let's be kind to each other. And let's see what kind of world that we can create in doing that. So Take care. Thanks for listening.